Again.
Welcome back to CBS Mornings, where we're talking about a new film inspired by the true story of a critical care nurse who helped stop a serial killer. That serial killer, Charles Cullen, in 2004, pled guilty to killing 29 hospital patients, and the real number may even be higher. He admitted to doing it by injecting deadly doses of medicine in their saline drips, and said there were more victims likely over his 16-year career, more than just the 29. That's a huge number. He's serving multiple life sentences. His fellow nurse and friend, Amy Loughren, she helped stop him. She worked with police, and she got him to confess. This was crucial. The thriller, the movie we were talking about, is The Good Nurse, starring Jessica Chastain, and it's based on Amy's story. In the scene you're about to see, Amy suffers a heart episode after growing more suspicious of Cullen and wakes up to find him by her bedside. Take a look.
Where's the nurse?
Don't worry. Your last pressure looked pretty good. Your heart rate's been below 80 for the last hour. I saw the labs, and your troponin's high, but it's trending down, so you're good. You're okay. You're lucky. Could have been a lot worse.
I want to go home.
I know. Okay.
Hey, sir, heart rate goes up. You awake?
Yeah.
Bring me discharge form.
Yeah. I don't think that's a good idea. No, she should stay overnight.
Yeah, we got this.
I want to leave AMA.
You sure?
I'm gonna drive her home, make sure she's looked after. Thank you. We're good. Thank you.
And the whole movie is like that. You will watch every minute of it, and you will love it. We're joined now by Jessica Chastain and Amy Loughren. Wow, Amy, that's a real scene from your life.
It is, yes.
What was it like? And Jessica, welcome back. You won an Oscar since the last time we saw you. We got a lot to talk about. You do a wonderful job portraying Amy on camera or on screen.
It was a huge honor to get to tell her
It
story.
was a huge honor. Excuse me. I get to be played by Jessica Chastain. Like,
right.
wake me up, wake me. Yes.
That part's a dream, obviously, but then the story itself, though, I mean, it's a nightmare. It is a nightmare. What was it like? I could see you getting emotional just as I was reading the story, the summary, and then just looking at that clip. What was it like to delve into all of this?
Well, for me, of course, you know, reliving it, it is very triggering. It was 20 years ago, so I have had a lot of time to process it. However, I have only been able to watch it once. It's pretty triggering. And Eddie Redmayne does such an incredible job truly channeling my friend Charlie that I hear his voice and it's my friend Charlie all over again. The detectives, Danny Baldwin and Tim Braun, we were with them last night, and they said the same thing. They actually had to sit back a little bit because he
was so
sounds
spot on.
exactly like Charles Cullen.
Jessica,
Amy,
I don't know Amy, but I thought she did such a wonderful job portraying you and what you must have been going through. I mean, I was watching you, Jessica, just do the IV and the way that you were handling the patients. Like you did seem to me to be a real nurse.
Well, we went to nurse school.
You and Eddie did?
Yeah, we spent 2 weeks. We shot this at the end of the pandemic, so we couldn't really go to nurse school.
Yeah.
So they made one for us. And we learned it all. We learned IVs. I started with like the first day of like the history of nursing. We learned about Florence Nightingale. But yeah, no, the compressions, that's the one thing I asked. I said, what is the thing Hollywood always gets wrong? And I was told the compressions.
Did she get that right?
Yeah, and in the screening, that was the one that I was like, oh my God, her form.
But do you know what it is? You're supposed to keep your arms straight. And in your head, and this is what you think, you sing the tune, you go,
Staying alive, staying alive.
And that's the rhythm of the compressions.
We all rely on nurses. Nurses rely on each other, though. It's a very close occupation. And Amy, I was amazed actually hearing you talk about Charles Cullen, the person who murdered dozens of people. You still, when you think about it, you say, my friend Charles. I don't even know if you realize you were doing it.
No, that struck me too.
So I didn't really, I met the murderer twice. The person I knew was truly a different person, and he changes. And I saw him go from this wonderful, gentle, soft-spoken, great teammate to this very angry, smug person that I did not know.
When did you start to suspect him?
So I wish I could say that I suspected him early on, and I didn't. I still have a lot of guilt about that, that I didn't see it sooner.
Yeah.
How could you see it?
Right.
Honestly.
He worked at so many hospitals before. You were the one who stopped him.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's so important for you
Amy.
to acknowledge and recognize.
For those who are familiar with the story, and those who will watch this, the question we wrestle with is why? And everybody has their own reason. In your gut, knowing him as a friend and a murderer, why do you think he went down this dark path?
He definitely had a very challenging childhood. That doesn't excuse anything that he did. I had a challenging childhood. I do believe that he was very flawed. I think he had a lot of mental illness. He tried to commit suicide even as a preteen, and he started his murderous tendencies even before he was a teenager. Before he was a teenager. So I believe it was an obsessive compulsive disorder gone awry. That's just my theory.
Because you know what? He never gave an answer. Even when asked, he said, I got away with it. There's a very crucial scene at the end of the movie, Jess, where you got him to confess. And in that moment, you were so tender to him. And I was wondering, did that really happen? Because we got to see it was hard to see his humanity, but in that scene,
I think
you really
what's so
played his
beautiful about
humanity.
what Tobias Lindholm, our director, does, and this incredible story, is we spend so much time focusing on violence stopping violence, right? Aggression stopping violence. Those are all the stories we're fed in the media. In this true story, what stops the violence and the cycle of violence is compassion and love. And Amy reminds him that he's a human being and reminds him of his humanity when everyone else starts to treat him as a monster. And that's what stops it. And this is a show that focuses on the hero and not the violence and the murderer. And it's one of the first times I've ever seen something do that.
We'll certainly focus on nurses. I have a very good friend who was in the hospital recently, and he was saying that the difference that the nurses make, everybody gives all the glory to the doctors, Amy, but what do you say about nurses? And some nurses can't come in, and you could see that they're really on top in care, and others just seem to be phoning it in. What do you say about the work?
Anyone who has ever been in the hospital, and especially in critical care, you'll see the physicians are only there for about 30 seconds.
Right.
Maybe a couple of minutes to come in and get report from the nurse. It's the nurses that will save your life.
The nurses will save your life.
Yeah.
Did you change your perception of nurses, Jessica?
Oh, it's a hard job.
Yeah.
I mean, we made this film at the end of the pandemic, at the time where everyone's going outside to clap, and acknowledge healthcare workers. But I think sometimes we have short-term memories.
Yeah.
And we need to remember the people who are out there caring for ourselves.
Yes.
And this film is about someone who was caring for others, and we weren't really caring for her.
Yeah.
And I think we need to look at that and say, are we taking care of the people that are out there putting everything on the line for us?
We
The
appreciate
movie
our
ends
nurses.
by saying you're
No
still
doubt.
a good nurse, Amy.
Yeah.
The movie ends and it says you're still a good nurse.
Nurse and a hero.
Yes.
Jessica
Yes, she
Chastain
is.
and Amy Loughren, thank
Yes.
you so much. We appreciate you. The Good Nurse is out in select theaters today and begins streaming on Netflix next Wednesday.
So good.
And we have more on The Good Nurse on today's CBS Mornings podcast. The director and screenwriter discusses why they focused on Amy Loughren's story and were drawn to her compassion, humanity, and effort to find justice.